Hello and welcome to Pause for Pensions, Pension Awareness Week 2020. Hopefully you can all see us. We've normally been on the road this time of the year, but of course, given current circumstances, we can't do that. So what better than to go digital? So Pause for Pensions this year is our theme for Pension Awareness Week 2020. It's one of those events where we would normally be on the road and we'd be talking all things pensions. The idea is to create a storyboard for you to look at. Information that you can then say, okay, what do I need to do next? Because we know that pensions are a really complex and complicated subject. You've told us many times when we've been on the road doing things like Civil Service Live. So we want to make sure that we can give you as much information as possible so that you can make those informed choices. Really, it's all about you being able to value and understand your benefits and then make those informed choices as you plan for your retirement. But it's not just for those people who are already thinking about retirement, it's for anybody in the scheme and thinking, how can I get more informed and have more information with which to then start making those informed choices. So it's the first day. So today is all about pension essentials, and that's what we're going to cover in our first session. So every day of the week, this week is themed. So today is all about pension essentials on Live at Lunch. The actual theme for the day, though, with regards to Pause for Pensions, is take a dip into digital. And what we're asking you to do there is, if you've not already done so, at least start to look at the pension scheme website, because it's a treasure trove of information where you can find things that will help you to make those informed choices. So if you don't know already, the website is civilservicepensionscheme.org.uk. That's civilservicepensionscheme.org.uk. So if you've not been on there before, please do visit the site. There's loads of things on there, and a lot of what we refer to in today's session you will be able to find on the scheme website. So it should be your one-stop shop for information. Now, today's session will be with myself and also a couple of subject matter experts who are here to give you the answers to some of the most important questions that you've raised. So I've got Carl McFerrin, who is a scheme compliance officer from the scheme administrator, MyCSP. And I've also got with me today Andy Jones, who is the engagement manager from Cabinet Office, Civil Service and Royal Mail Pensions. So when we go into the detail, I'll be talking to Andy and Carl about those questions that you've raised, and a big thank you to those of you, by the way, who've already raised questions as you've registered for the events. And what we'll be doing is taking the most popular. Today is about pension essentials, so it could be for those of you who are at the start of your journey and you've joined the scheme but you don't really know an awful lot more about it. It could be for those of you who've been in the scheme for a while but still don't know much about it. And again, you know, we understand that you are very busy and you have a schedule, and where is pensions on the pecking order? We understand that. That's why we created the theme of Pause for Pensions, because it's about you taking time out of your schedule to think about pensions. See what we did there? Pause for pensions. So again, this is all about giving you information so you can make those informed choices. As I say, Pension Awareness Week is something that we would normally be doing on the road this time every year. We would normally be up and down the country, we'd be in employers' premises, and we'd be meeting face to face. And normally it's a bit of a pension surgery where we'd meet people who would come with those unique questions. Now, we'll be running these sessions all week, so it's in lieu of being out on the road, we've actually themed the week, so there's something that you can dip into every day at lunchtime. Now, today is Pension Essentials. Tomorrow is the first of our pension surgeries, and that's where we're going to a wide, generic bunch of questions. Wednesday is all about life events, and it's those things that happen, whether it's a divorce, whether it's your changing your role, whether it's taking time out, changing your hours, that can impact your pension. Thursday is the second of our pension surgeries, and that's a dedicated 2015 remedy programme pension surgery. And then Friday, it's the road to retirement. So it's our whistle-stop tour through full and partial retirement. Now, for those of you who have booked for other sessions in the week, that's great. We look forward to seeing you then. If, by the way, you're on today and you haven't yet booked for the end of the week, don't worry, because you can still see these sessions on the scheme website the next day. So what we're doing is we're going to record the session that we're on now, and then we'll be hosting it on the scheme website the next day. So you can kind of catch us on catch up if you want to. Also, please make sure that during the session today, you're taking notes. Whenever we're on the road, we normally ask people to go away with a bit of an action plan. And we really want to make sure that whilst you get information today, you act upon it. So it could be that you go to the scheme website for the first time. It might be that you register for the pension portal. Did you know there was a pension portal where you can view all of your pension details? You can also look at your annual benefit statements online, and also you can update your death benefit nominee or nominees online as well for the first time this year. So again, if it's not somewhere that you've been, please do look on the website for information about the portal. Have you also looked at the retirement modeler? Again, a way of modelling your future and using a calculator to see what your future benefits will look like. So there's a lot of reasons why you need to go to the website if you haven't already done so and take that dip into digital. So before we start and get into the Q&As, I'd like to show you a brief video which is basically all about pension essentials. So it's lunchtime. If you haven't already, this is your time to grab a brew, sit back, watch the video and join me later.
Welcome to the Civil Service Pension Scheme. You now have choices. You can choose to enter the Civil Service Defined Benefit Scheme. For most people this will be Alpha, or the Defined Contribution Scheme called Partnership, more of which later. Alpha provides pension benefits each year calculated as 2.32% of your actual pensionable earnings, which are your salary, plus any pensionable allowances and bonuses. The balance of your pension is carried forward to the next scheme year. A cost of living adjustment is applied to your total pension at the start of each scheme year. It can be a positive or negative amount in Alpha. For example, for April 2018, the cost of living adjustment was plus 3%. You then go on to accrue a further 2.32% of your earnings each year, and these values are added together and moved forward to the next year. As an example in real money, here's how your pension benefits build up in Alpha, based on a salary of £25,000 and a cost of living adjustment of plus 1% per year. This shows how you build up your benefits each year, and what they could be worth after 10 or 15 years. In reality, you may be promoted and earn a higher salary, and the cost of living percentage may fluctuate, but it gives you an example to consider. Year 1. With earnings of £25,000 times 2.32% equaling £580, this will give you a pension of £580 per year. In Year 2, with a balance from the previous year of £580 and a cost of living increase of plus 1%, £5.80. Earnings of £25,000 times 2.32% equaling £580. This will give you a pension of £1,165.80 per year. In Year 3, with a balance from the previous year of £1,165.80 and a cost of living increase of plus 1%, £11.66. Earnings of £25,000 times 2.32% equaling £580. This will give you a pension of £1,757.46 per year. Moving on a few years to Year 10, with a balance from the previous years of £5,433.75 and a cost of living increase of plus 1%, £54.34. Earnings of £25,000 times 2.32% equaling £580. This will give you a pension of £6,068.08 per year. And, moving on further to Year 15, with the balance from the previous years of £8,669.50 and a cost of living increase of plus 1%, £86.70. Earnings of £25,000 times 2.32% equaling £580, this will give you a pension of £9,336.20 per year. There are a number of contribution salary bands, which will determine the percentage of contributions you and your employers pay. As a member of the scheme, if due to ill health you're unable to continue working, you may be able to leave work on ill health retirement. If you're injured at work, you may be eligible to receive injury benefits whilst away from work. Death benefit nominee. You can nominate an unlimited number of people or one organisation to receive a lump sum upon your death. If you want to keep all your pensions together, you have the option to transfer them into the Civil Service Pension Scheme. There is a time limit of 12 months from the date you join the scheme. Dependents pension. Your spouse, civil partner or life partner can receive a proportion of your pension upon your death. Any children who are dependent upon you could also receive a proportion of your pension upon your death. You can take your alpha benefits at the latter of age 65 or your state pension age. You can choose to enter the partnership scheme. You can choose not to make any contributions if you wish. Your employer will pay an age-related contribution of between 8% and 14.75% of your earnings. If you do pay your contributions, your employer will match them up to a further 3%. Partnership can also provide ill health and death benefits. With partnership, you can decide when you take your benefits from age 55 to 75. If, at any point you want to boost your pension, you may want to consider added pension or additional voluntary contributions. Visit the dedicated pages on the website to find out more. www.civilservicepensionscheme.org.uk.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you found that informative. Again, there was lots of information in the video, which we do appreciate. So if you want to watch it again, you can do it. It's stored on the scheme website under bite-sized videos. And there's lots of other videos on there as well. If you've never seen them, there's guides to full and partial retirement. There's also a guide to registering for the portal if you haven't done that already. So again, please do make sure that you visit afterwards and make sure that you get as much information from that as you can. So before we go into the questions, what I wanted to say is that remember, today is all about you being informed and getting as much information as you can. So again, please do think about this session as your jumping off point. We'll give you lots of information, but it might just spark some interest in boosting your pension or transferring in or thinking about your road to retirement. So it could be a bit of a platform from which you then go and find information. So again, please do think as you go through the Q&A session, what things you might need to note down, and then think about what you might need to do next. Okay, so on to the Q&As. So again, a big thank you to those of you who sent in your questions. Some of these are the most popular, and what's very interesting is the most popular is often the simplest. And this one is for you, Andy. So this is a regular question that we get. How do I find out which pension scheme I'm in? I joined in 2017, but I've never looked into this before. Now, number one, people, why are you not looking into it before? If you've been a member of the scheme, it's really important you understand which scheme you're in, because then you understand the rules that apply and therefore what it means for you in terms of benefits, timings, and all of that. So, Andy, what's the best place to go if people want to find out that simple question, the answer to which is, which scheme am I in? Where do I go for information?
Thank you very much, David. Great question. Does sound like a simple question, but I have a lot of sympathy for people given the number of schemes, how they've chopped and changed over the years. Just to hark back to the video we've just watched. So given you joined in 2017, more than likely you'll have joined Alpha, as it mentioned. The reason for that, since 2015, that is the scheme that the vast majority of our new entrants are automatically enrolled into. But what if you actually don't know which scheme you're a member of? Loads of different sources you can look at. So the one we always hark on about, because it's our treasure trove of information, is the website. And I can't stress that enough. It is a fantastic source of information for not just knowing which scheme you're in, but what your options that are available to you and things like that. So there's a lot of information sources which can help you to determine which scheme you're a member of. Probably the best place for you to go or look at is actually your annual benefit statement. So if you've been in service since the 31st, well, before the 31st of March, you should have received an annual benefit statement. If you've not yet, please wait until around June, July time next year, and you'll receive your annual benefit statement. On there, it actually will tell you which scheme you are a member of, and if you were what we call or referred to as a transition member, it'll say what scheme you were in pre-2015 as well. Some employers actually say which scheme you're a member of on their pay slips as well. Not every single one of them does, but it could do. The next place is the portal. I can't forget the portal. The portal is great. It shows you a little bit of basic information on you. As David mentioned, it shows a retirement modeler. It stores your annual benefit statements, and of course, lets you know which scheme you are a member of. And lastly, final place, contact MyCSP. MyCSP are the scheme administrators, and they'll be able to let you know which scheme you are a member of.
Thank you, Andy. That's really helpful. So again, there's a variety of sources there that as a member you can go to find out the information that you need. One thing I would stress as well is on the scheme website, we have something called the At a Glance Guide. And the At a Glance Guide literally does what it says on the tin. So it is your At a Glance Guide to here's all the benefits that you get if you're in Alpha, here's the ones you get in Classic, etc. And you're able to look at each particular benefit against the other. So when can I take my benefits in Classic? When can I take my benefits in Alpha? So again, if you haven't already done so, go to the publications page on the scheme website and look for the At a Glance Guide. When we do these events live, normally, as Andy will attest, when we're on the road doing Civil Service Live, when we hand out the At a Glance Guide, they are like gold dust. And if we were on money for sending them out, then we would be millionaires right now. It is a very useful guide. Importantly, it breaks it all down into really simple language as well, so that people can understand it without all the jargon. So again, if you've not done that, please make sure you do so. Andy, on the back of that, somebody who may be in the scheme, may be at a live event where they're thinking, do you know, really, I want to opt out because I'm seeing the contributions that are going out, and where my life stage is right now, I don't want to be making those contributions. So one of our members emailed in and said, I'm newly enrolled in the pension scheme. As I'm heading towards retirement age, is there any advantage to staying in the scheme? Can I opt out? Can you give us some details, Andy, about if somebody does want to opt out? So,
if I'm being blunt, I'm not a fan of opting out. I understand that some people it is beneficial for. That is usually our very high earners. And I am sympathetic for those individuals who can't afford to pay the contributions that we make as members. Fully get that. The one phrase I want to just jump on is what you mentioned right at the start of our call today, is that pause for pensions. When you're making any kind of financial decision, I always think it's better to be a little bit cautious, take your time. So with opting out, what I would say is if you're opting out for financial reasons because you can't afford to pay the contribution, what I would say is consider partnership. We mentioned it in the video, and it was mentioned in the video, but I really, really want to press on this. You actually don't have to make a contribution, and your employer still will. So a lot of people see the money going out, the contributions going out from their pay packet and think, I'd prefer to use that towards putting things towards my rent, paying things towards my mortgage, going on a holiday, things like that. The one thing I will always say is you won't get that exact amount back in your payslip, namely because you don't get tax relief on it. So if you're paying £150 a month, you'll probably get something like £140 back higher in your payslip from not paying a pension contribution. Like I say, that's because you're not getting tax relief. What I will also add to that is if you've opted out, you're not getting cover for death. So if you die in service, your loved ones aren't going to be able to receive any form of financial support. If you become too ill to work, again, there's no cover there for you. I mentioned it before, partnership. You can actually get something for nothing. Now with partnership, it is what we call a defined contribution scheme, which I'm going to come on to think on a future question, if correct me if I'm wrong on that, David, where you invest the contributions that are made to it. And like I say, the great thing with that is you actually don't have to contribute and your employer still will. So if you can't afford and you're thinking of opting out solely for that financial reason where you can't afford to pay the contribution, seriously consider partnership. Now, one of the safety nets that we do on there, if you leave this call and forget, is one of the things that we do on the opt-out form. We actually lay this out for people to act as a bit of a safety net, so you are aware. Like I say, the big takeout from this is any financial decision that you're going to make, take that minute, have a bit of a pause, then you can make that informed decision.
Thank you, Andy. I think the important takeout there is that, again, as Andy said, pause for pensions. If you're making those important decisions, then please be informed. Please make sure that you have got the most information in front of you so you can make that decision. I remember when we were I think it was Exeter, when we were doing Civil Service Live last year, and we did one of our sessions. Andy and I are normally on the road doing these sessions. And a lady came in and said, I'm thinking of going into partnership. And we delivered our 45-minute session. And straight after that, she said, no, I won't be. So again, there are some choices that you need to make, but you need to be informed. Now, Andy, what if somebody had then opted out and then thought, actually, I need to opt back in?
Yeah.
What's the process?
Yeah. The short question is, we'll welcome you back with open arms, despite you leaving us, things like that. But yeah, in all seriousness, you can come back in, and we have a lot of people who do come back, and when the time is right for them. So there is an there's an opt-out form, but on the flip, there is an opt-in form as well. It's really easy to complete. You find it on the scheme website, complete it, and follow the actions of where you need to send it. Like I say, one of the things that I would probably not recommend, or I can't advise, but suggest, is depending on how long you've been out the scheme, you may wish to consider things like added pension, or what the facility called boosting your pension. So we use something called added pension, which I always, for those who see me at Civil Service Live, it's a little bit like Ron Seal Quick Dry and Wood Stain. It does exactly what it says in the tin. Or alternatively, you can do a thing called Civil Service Additional Voluntary Contributions, or CSAVCs for short, which is a investment in a private pension in conjunction with your main scheme benefits. And the reason I say that is to make up for any pension you may have missed out on for that period you've been opted out.
Thank you, Andy. So it seems like there are some options there. So you could be in the scheme, you could be in partnership, you could have opted out, and or you could be doing your own thing with either added pension or AVCs. So again, what I would say to anybody watching today, all the information about this is on the scheme website. So if you're in that frame of mind where you're thinking, what are my options, then please do visit the scheme website. I'm going to move over to Carl now, so thank you for the moment, Andy. One of the many questions we get is from people who have transferred in from another employer, and what they want to know is, can they transfer in their benefits? So one of our questions came in from a member who said, is it possible to transfer other pensions into your civil service pension? And is there a limit on how much and by when? So I'd like to move to our other subject matter expert, Carl, to answer that one. Carl, over to you.
Hi David, thanks for that. Hope everyone's keeping safe, keeping well. The easy way to answer this question is, yeah, if you have any benefits, whether it be from previous employment or maybe even a private pension provider, and you're newly joining the civil service pension schemes and you want to transfer those benefits in, it's really easy to do if you're interested. First thing and the most important thing you need to note is, as just explained in the video before this Q&A session, there is a 12-month time limit to do so, and that begins from when you join the scheme. So bear that in mind when you want to join the scheme. But as I say, if you want to transfer benefits in, really easy. All you need to do is fill in transfer an application form. You'll send this to my CSP, and from there, my CSP will do all the work for you. They'll contact your previous scheme, get details of what pension you had with them, obtain a transfer value, use that value to calculate what benefits you'd get in the civil service pension scheme, and send you a quote explaining all of that. From there, it's entirely up to you whether you want to accept the transfer or not. If you do, fill in the necessary transfer form, send it back to my CSP, and my CSP will keep the ball rolling from there. Contact your former provider, send your confirmation of your benefits, and it's as easy as that.
Carl, that sounds really straightforward, but I can imagine there might be some members now thinking, I've missed that 12-month window. So if they have missed that 12-month window where they've come from another employer and it's gone, the time has passed and they can't transfer in, What could they then do outside of that? Do they have any other options?
So yeah, unfortunately, if you do miss the 12-month deadline, the rules are quite strict as to whether you can transfer it or not. There are other possibilities and options you have though with what you can do with your transfer. If you're looking to consolidate your previous benefits, you do have the option of transferring into your CSAVC, which is Civil Service Additional Voluntary Contribution Plan. Quite a mouthful there, sorry. And the current provider is Legal and General. So if you have unfortunately missed that 12-month deadline, and you are thinking of consolidating your previous pensions, by all means, have a look at the dedicated page on the Civil Service Pension website for Legal and General, and contact them for any more information you may need.
Thank you, Carl. And just to pick up on one of the things you mentioned there, Carl, you talked about the rules. And if you remember, I told you before about the at-a-glance guide. The at-a-glance guide gives you all the information of what the rules are and what rules pertain to whether you're in Alpha, whether you're in Classic, whether you're in Premium. So as Carl says, the rules will dictate. It's how you then understand what rules pertain to where you are in which particular scheme. So thank you for that, Carl. That's really useful. I'd like to return to Andy now, and this is a question we often get at Civil Service Live, which is to do with contribution rates. Now, one of our members has emailed in and said, I'm a C2 grade and I have £143 deducted each month on the Alpha pension. Where does this money go? How does it benefit me in the future by paying this amount now? So Andy, could you give us a bit of an overview then of the contributions that individuals make? They may have seen something in the video, but if you can bring the slide to us again, that would be helpful.
What I want to do a little bit first, David, is actually take a little bit of a step back to give people a little bit of background on the types of pension schemes that are around. So generally, there are two main pension types. We've already mentioned one of them before, which is the defined contributions. This is a defined contribution scheme. Now, this is where the contributions that you make and your employer makes are invested in the stock market, so stocks, shares, emerging markets, all things like that. And your money or your pension contributions will hopefully grow in line with how those shares and savings progress. And when you come to retirement, it's then used to buy you a pension or what we call an annuity, or you can take out a lump sum, all things like that. Probably the easiest way to describe it is a little bit like a savings account. You put money in each month, it grows over the time you're in there, and then it bears its fruit towards the end. Now, our main scheme benefits, so Classic, Classic Plus, Premium, Nuvos, Alpha, are all what's called a defined benefit scheme. Now, with a defined benefit scheme, your contributions actually don't have a bearing on the amount of pension you receive. Instead, the contributions that you make and your employer makes go towards funding the actual scheme itself. Now, how your benefits are then determined, it all comes down to your salary, so your pensionable earnings, how long you've been in the service, things like that. So it's two distinct ways of running a scheme. A savings account, which you see and builds up, and then you use that to buy something, defined contribution, or a set calculation which takes place to determine what you get, which is a defined benefit. Now, the great thing with a defined benefit is that it is extremely safe. For example, when we had the stock market crash back in, I think it was 2012, our defined benefit scheme wasn't impacted. Members who were in there, obviously, is that those set calculations meant their pension was safe, whereas people who were invested in stocks and shares through a defined contribution could have and probably will have lost money, unfortunately. Where can you see the benefits of it? Just to hark back to what David was going on about with the at-a-glance guide, I can't rave about that enough. I absolutely love it. It has something like 12 to 14 questions on there, which covers very broadly the benefits of the scheme, and it gives you the answer depending on which scheme you are interested in. And yeah, they're like hotcakes when when we're at Civil Service Live. People love them and find them really easy to understand. And if you really want to see one, again, hark back to the members publications page. It's there and you can save it like me on your desktop.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy. That's useful. And again, for those of you who are already thinking about what I need to do next, a number of things that Andy's mentioning there, and also Carl, you may want to watch the video back tomorrow to get, oh, that's a reminder, I need to go and do that. So again, please just think about your little aid memoir today about the things that you want to do. Now, Andy, in terms of contributions, what's interesting is you've mentioned them there and you talked about how it funds the scheme. Now, Carl, I'd like to turn to you on this because one of the questions that we've got from our members is relating to salary step for percentage contributions. So members said, why is there a salary step for percentage contributions? My annual pay award has taken me over a step, so I've got even less of a pay increment this year than expected. So, Carl, can you just explain to us again what happens in terms of the contributions, but again, importantly, take it back to the rules of the scheme?
Yeah, thanks, David. Really good question. Again, so the easiest way to answer this question is it's basically the rules of the scheme. The rules of the scheme are set by legislation, and as Andy hinted at earlier, you need to pay your contributions to help fund the scheme itself. The rates are set by the government actuary department, and they basically have come up with the current percentage rates based on what they think future service liabilities will be and how much it will cost to fund the scheme. It's understandable why you may be upset, but at the end of the day, you've got to remember it's to fund your future, your pension, and ultimately you will reap the benefits when you come to retire.
Okay, thank you. Carl, staying with you, one of the questions we often get is that when people move house, they want to know who do they need to tell. So we've mentioned about the scheme administrator. What if they move department, move employer? So who do they need to tell? Do they need to tell the scheme administrator? What happens there?
So this is it's really easy and really simple for any members. There's no effort, you've got to take it all. Basically, your employer and MyCSP will do everything for you, so you don't need to tell MyCSP if you move department, not just if you move department, if you've changed address, if you've changed your marital status. Basically, your employer will tell all of this information to MyCSP on your behalf. To do this, they'll send it automatically each month on what's known as an electronic interface. And without getting into too much technical jargon, this interface is just a way to automatically update MyCSP's record each month. So they'll automatically know any changes to your personal details, such as your address, marital status, as I said before, any change in department. But the interface is also helpful for giving MyCSP the data actually used to calculate your benefits, such as your earnings, your pay. They'll let MyCSP know how many contributions you paid. And it's really that easy, nothing to do. Just leave it all to MyCSP and your employer. I'll take care of it for you.
Okay, that sounds like an answer that most people would want. Thank you very much indeed. Just one thing as well, if you are a member and you're on the pension portal, you can update your personal details on the portal yourself, so you can update your address details if you need to. A couple of questions now for Andy. And Andy, this is a common one. So this time of year, most people will receive their annual benefit statement. One of the questions is, what is it? What do I do with it? So again, we talked about pausing for pensions there, Andy, and taking time out. What is the annual benefit statement? What should a member do with it? Where do they go from there?
So just to look at the question that you've just raised, David, what is the annual benefit statement? The annual benefit statement is a picture or detail of what your pension is at a particular date. Now, the date that we use is the 31st of March each year. Now, the reason for that is the way your Alpha pension scheme works. It runs and uses the calculations or your earnings, sorry, up until the 31st of March. So that's the date we use because of that reason. Your annual benefit statement is a really good tool to use to plan your financial, well, your retirement finances, should I say. This should really be, so working in pensions, I check my pension probably 3, 4, 5, 6, a million times, probably a day, if I'm being brutally honest. But we use it or refer to it as a call to action. We want people to do something. We know people don't want to think about pensions like me 24/7. So what I would love is for people to think about it once, twice a year. And this is the great call out for that. It gives you that opportunity to take stock of where your pension is. So if you're thinking, oh, I want to retire at 55, let me have a look. I'll jump on the pension portal, see what my pension is likely to be, and go, oh, it's not going to provide me with what I want. So that'll then trigger your thoughts for things like added pension or Ronseal quick drying wood stain, as I said, or CSAVCs, things like that. What it also does is, as Carl mentioned it before, it was about the interfaces that take place between your employer and MyCSP. Now, not to scare anyone, but if people move around departments or have done historically, things can go awry and data can go slightly wrong. So what the annual benefit statement does is gives you that opportunity to check that the information holding is correct. And if it's not, it gives you that impetus to take action to get it corrected. What we don't want people to be doing is waiting until they come to retire and go, my record is completely wrong. If your record is right and you check it on an annual basis, when you come to retirement, the process should be a lot cleaner, a lot easier for you without any delays. We have seen in the past, and we've just done a massive cleansing exercise on historical data, which would have hopefully captured the majority of issues, but things do crop up every now and again. So what I would say is at least once a year, review your annual benefit statement and just make sure that you know it's right. If you want to take that step further, like I said, consider things like added pension, AVCs, things like that.
Thank you very much, Andy. And a good thing that you want to remember as a member, of course, is that your pension portal now contains an online version of your annual benefit statement. So if you happen to have lost the paper, happens to all of us, don't worry about it, because if you log on to the pension portal, you'll be able to see an online version of your annual benefit statement. And as Andy says, you'll be able to then check all the details that you've got there. Now, I'm looking at the time. So, gentlemen, I'm going to go for some quick fire questions here. So, Andy, you've talked about annual benefit statements. Now, that clearly will affect a large population. Around 450,000 people will receive a statement. Now, at this time of the year, we've also sent out what we call pension saving statements. In a nutshell, could you tell us what's a pension saving statement and what should somebody do if they've got one?
So pension saving statement is about tax that is associated to your pension, which looks at your pension saving statements, provides you with details of what's called your annual allowance. Now, the annual allowance looks at the increase in the value of your pension each year. Now, the people who will generally get these are higher earners. So what we do, we actually issue these as a matter of course for everyone who earns over £100,000. We issue them as a matter of course to each individual who we know have breached just in our scheme, and if someone's requested one. You might get one if you have a very, very large pay increase. So if you jump from £50,000 to £70,000 a year, something like that, it is likely you could breach the annual allowance because of that big jump in your pay. If you make a large saving to your pension, so through added pension, things like that, again, you could breach the annual allowance. What you need to do is take into account all the pensions that you are actively saving into. If you have a deferred pension, with the HMRC aren't really interested in that for annual allowance purposes, but if you're saving to somewhere as well, let's say you've got a part-time job in Tesco or wherever, and you're saving to that pension scheme, you need to take that pension saving that you are making into account. A pension saving statement, what I would say is don't panic. Like we say, pause, have a read of the question, have a read of the statement. There's a lot of information on there. Jump to the scheme website. There's dedicated pages on everything to do with annual allowance and tax to do with your pension. There's another one called lifetime allowance, which looks at the whole value of your pension, but there is also support available through your employer if you get one. What I would recommend is, if you do receive one, read it, have a look on the website, and have a word with your employer about the support that is there for you.
Thank you, Andy. So again, as members, don't worry. If you do receive a pension savings statement and you need to take action, there is support available to you. You can speak to your employer about that. There are group pension tax awareness sessions, which are funded by your employer, which are delivered by my CSP. And then if you do have a tax charge to pay, having had that tax awareness session, you can then have a further consultant session, a one-to-one, to work out what you might need to do. There are things called scheme pays, where you might want to consider how you pay that tax charge if you do indeed have a tax charge to pay. So please don't worry about it. Please take action. Look at the dedicated pages on the scheme website, as Andy mentioned. Okay, last couple of questions. This is interesting, Andy. You talked before about the benefits that people get with the scheme. And one of the questions from our member is, can I waive the death benefit? I don't need it and I'd rather not pay for it. So is it a bit of a pick and mix?
Yeah, no, in short. The reason being, it's what we call it, because it's the defined benefit. The contributions that you pay for the whole wide spectrum of that benefit. If you don't have an individual or individuals you want to nominate, I think Carl mentioned you can nominate an individual or a number of individuals for your death benefit. You can actually nominate a organisation as well, if you didn't want to. So you can leave it to a cat's home, dog's home, bird sanctuaries, things like that, if you really wanted to. If you don't want to nominate anybody or an organisation, you can just not nominate anyone. That's up to you. If you do that, the death lump sum that is paid, especially if you're in service or shortly after retire, would be paid to your estate and would be divvied up how your estate wishes. So in short, no, you can't divvy it up. For the details of everything on the for death benefits, things like that, again, all roads lead to the scheme website. We have a dedicated page for death benefits, as we do for pretty much every single topic we're talking about today.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Right, so the last question goes to Carl. Carl, at this time, having gone through the pandemic, people's working patterns may have changed. So, for example, some people could be working different hours, and some people may have taken time out for whatever reason. What happens to the pension if a member takes, for example, takes a year off work or takes some time off work? What happens to their pension?
So in this circumstance, if you're looking to take a career break, you might have agreed some leave with your employer, whether it could be you want to go traveling, you may have a relative you need to care for, whatever the reason is. If you're looking to take a career break, you don't have to worry about your pension. It'll still be there. What I would say is you won't actually accrue any pension while you're on leave. The reason for this is if you're not receiving any pay, you're not paying any scheme contributions. So during that time, your pension won't build up. But what I will say is when you're ready to rejoin service, you'll simply rejoin the scheme you left, resume paying contributions again, and your pension will build up from there. That's if you're on the career break. It's worth mentioning if you leave service altogether, it's a little bit different depending on how much service you've actually got in the scheme. If you've got less than 2 years qualifying service in the scheme, unfortunately, you'll need to either take a refund of contributions or possibly transfer your benefits out. If you have more than 2 years, though, we'll preserve your pension. It's ready for you to claim back from your pension age, so you've got nothing to worry about there. But as I say, it's uneasy times at the minute. No one knows what the future circumstances will be. Just know that your pension will be safe, regardless of what happens in the future.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Carl. Well, at that point, I'd like to say a big thank you to both Carl and Andy for the information that they've provided us with today. Remember, today's session will be recorded and therefore it will be hosted on the scheme website tomorrow. So if there were any things that you thought, oh, I need to take a note of that and it's gone, don't worry, you can catch us on catch up. Also, the video that you saw at the start of today's session is hosted on the scheme website as well. That's in the section called bite-sized videos, as I mentioned. So again, before we go, I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much for taking part. We appreciate that you have a busy schedule, and therefore the whole theme of this week, Pause for Pensions, is taking time out. We hope you've enjoyed Live at Lunch. What we hope you'll do, though, is also take some actions from today's call. Please do visit the website, take a dip into digital. As both Andy and Carl have mentioned, there's a host of information on the scheme website that will enable you to make those informed choices. If you haven't joined the portal, then please do. There's my time telling me to shut up. So please do make sure that you take time out, visit the website, register for the portal, think about the model as well if you've not used it, to think about whether you might want to take out some added pension, as both Carl and Andy have referred to today. So that's the end of our first Live at Lunch. Hope you enjoyed it. We will be back on tomorrow, and tomorrow is a pension surgery. As I say, all of this week, Pause for Pensions is about things that we want you to do and that hopefully you will feel informed. Now, we hope you've liked this. It's the first time we've ever done it like this. There have been a few teething problems, but we got there in the end. Importantly, we'll send out a small survey to people who have attended and would like to know what you think. Would you like us to run more of these sessions throughout the year? When we did Civil Service Live this year, it was a digital event, one of the pieces of feedback was, this is great, I live in a rural area, I can't normally get to those big locations, and therefore for me, making it digital is even better. And obviously a lot of things now are all online, and therefore this could be something you'd like us to do more of in the future. Also, are there any other topics that you would like us to cover that we haven't yet covered so far in the sessions? So it just leaves it for me to say thank you very much for you taking part. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, today's session is on the website. Tomorrow you can watch the video that you saw at the start. And thank you very much for taking part. Hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you soon. Thank you.